All right, want to call this meeting of the Carver Board of Selectmen for March 12th, 2018. And if we could please, wait a minute. This meeting is being cablecast by Area 58 Community Access Media, Channel 15. There are openings on several committees. Please refer to the Board of Selectmen page on our website for a listing and an application, and we do have lots of openings. Now, if all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Mr. Clark will go ahead and read the community prayer tonight.
Almighty God, humbly we pray your blessing as we concern our life with the opportunity to serve our community. Enhance us with your spirit of dignity and selflessness. May we become instruments of support and understanding as we seek to bring an environment of trust and purpose among all who provide the many services that make us all that we can become. Help us achieve the goals of our commitment in this office that is now our responsibility. And especially, we lift our prayers for all the citizens of our community that we have been allowed to serve, that they may discover the fullness and joy of life that we all seek. And keep those serving in our armed forces and our first responders in our hearts and thoughts. Amen.
Amen. All right, now this time Carver citizen participation. This is the time we set aside at the beginning of our meeting for any citizens that wish to come forward and speak on any subject before the board. We ask you keep your comments for 3 minutes so everybody will have a chance to go ahead and speak. And since we have such a huge house here today, do we have anybody that wishes to approach the board? Come on down, Mr. Sinclair. Please identify yourself and address.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. William Sinclair, 5 Lillian Way. I'd like to thank you all for listening to me tonight and having the opportunity to speak with you. Being a long-time member of the Redevelopment Authority and multiple boards on this town, I've got to the point that just to make a couple things clear. Most of them specifically, I'm responding to a lot of blogging and a lot of hearsay going on in the town.
Bill, I'm
Yes,
going to
sir.
interrupt you for a sec.
Yep.
Do we really want to go down this road in this type of format?
Well, I think it's up to you, Mr. Chairman, if there's some alternative facts or some real facts that the chairman of one of the boards wants to get out there. I mean, I think as a chairman, they have the right just to clear up some information because they should be the ones that have the facts. But again, it's up to you to figure out how much leeway you have in there.
Yeah, because I have a good idea where you're going with this, based on known frictions. I'll put it that way. And I think most of us up here are probably already aware. I think it's concerning your executive director position.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think most of us on the board here are more than familiar with it. But I really feel that that's something you might want to do at your own meeting at the beginning. Just have, there's been a lot of verbiage going on social media. Some of it is not accurate, and I just want to set the record straight. And I can appreciate you wanting to come before the board on that one, but I can just see it really blowing up. And I just think that might be a better case because, I know what you're getting at. And like I say, I was at your first meeting when this all went down, and the fact that the majority of your board agrees with it and has basically moved on. And unfortunately, you don't have unanimity amongst all members of the board, and it keeps getting brought up. But I hate to not have you do it, but I really feel this is, I apologize to you, but I really don't think this is the environment to address that.
Mr. Chairman, I will respect you and the board's decision in that. I will take the lead from our leaders, and I appreciate that. I always take the responsibility of bringing information to the community and into our leadership. So of that, I will adhere to what you're requesting, and we'll do it at our meeting. It was on my plans to do that anyways, to set the record straight. Any support that we get from this board and from our leadership and from our town administrator is always greatly appreciated and always useful because we are here to serve the community in a whole. So I appreciate your input, and I'll adhere to you. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Will, I appreciate it. Anybody else wish to discuss, bring up anything? Seeing no one rushing to the front, we'll move on. Our first topic here is to recognize public safety and operations and maintenance personnel for their work during the winter storm. I won't refuse to use a name because we don't name winter storms. But for March 1st and 2nd.
It says Winter Storm Riley.
I know what it is, and that's not, I don't care.
Okay.
The only storms that are officially named by the government agency are tropical systems. However, having said that, that was quite the storm on March 1st, 2nd. We did have hurricane force wind gusts here, a little bit stronger on the Cape, but we had wind gusts here to 70, 75 miles per hour. It's been one of the more destructive storms we've seen in town, probably since Hurricane Bob, as far as the amount of tree damage and power outages that went on. And the only good thing about it was that we didn't have the snow on top of it. The snow was further inland. But I'd like the town administrator to outline some of the actions he knows that all our departments took. I'm talking EMS, DPW, fire, school, and in a little bit here, I have a letter that I received, and I'd like to read it into the record. But Mr. Malinowski.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. You know, it's interesting that we're preparing for 18 inches of snow tomorrow, and we're having this discussion, hoping that they were going to get a break, which they're not. But, you know, I do have to say that this town is second to none in its emergency response, combined with our 3 chiefs, and our 2 directors and deputy directors of our operation and maintenance department. The 5 of them with their support staff just do a phenomenal job. And the public should be, you know, and I think given the lack of complaints that we've received, which are virtually none from this storm, which was a devastating storm, I think everybody recognizes the hard work that our team has done. And I think what was interesting about this storm, more so than others, is that it was an unsafe event. We had operation and maintenance folks cutting down trees, and then as soon as they, you know, walked about 20 feet, another tree would fall behind them. And it was so windy they couldn't hear these things. And fortunately, knock on wood, no one got hurt. But whether it was our operation and maintenance department going around cutting every tree they could find to open up a road for our EMS, whether it was our 3 stations with the fire department with all their chainsaws out constantly cutting everything to keep everything open. You know, people were just working around the clock. We had police officers getting out of their cruisers and helping to move brush around just to make way for ambulances getting through. And I guess that really just demonstrates the team effort that everybody has, that when a storm like this happens, they just all jump together to solve the problem. And I think you guys got a lot to be proud of with our town. You know, one of the things we were hoping to do was to you know, find a way of recognizing, because it is their job and they do their job phenomenally. But again, I have to say they do above and beyond what they're required to do. And that's the piece that I think we as a community just need to figure out a special way of thanking them. And, you know, tonight they're going to be going into another 24 to 36 hour straight event that most of them will be up for that time frame trying to protect the citizens of Carver. And, you know, I would like us to think about what we can do as a special thanks for them, because, again, this was an unusual winter. This was an unusual weather climate that doesn't happen every year, and we appreciate everything they do.
Okay, before I take comments from the board. Well, welcome, Ms. Marone. How are you this fine evening? I'm glad you could join us. Please,
Please have
a seat.
You know, what a nice, you're gonna miss me, aren't you?
Oh, terribly. What do you mean, miss you? All right.
Sorry about that.
Never called attention to your late arrival.
Exactly, exactly.
All right.
I apologize.
Received a letter, Board of Selectmen, attention Alan Dunham. Hello, Alan. I decided to write to you a short note concerning the shelter at the Carver High School. For those who may not have known, we did have shelter operations at Carver High for that storm. As you know, my family and I were at the shelter on Saturday because of the storm. I can't tell you what a fantastic crew were there to help us get settled for the day and evening. As soon as we arrived at the shelter, one of the custodians brought us a bottle of water and snacks to hold us over to lunch. At lunchtime, we were asked if we would like a sandwich. At dinner time, we were served a hot meal donated by Shane Gives Thanks, served by two lovely ladies. On Sunday morning, we were served a very nice breakfast. I just felt I had to let you know what a great group of people ran the shelter. From the people that registered us into the shelter, the custodians, the ladies in the cafeteria, and all the individual helpers, including Billy Harriman. I might add that Billy went out of his way to make sure that we were comfortable. Many times he went out to buy us hot coffee and would not accept any money from us. In the evening, we were brought cots for sleeping. Throughout the day and evening, we were asked if there was anything they could get us. All the people at the shelter deserve a great big thank you for making us feel so welcome and comfortable. When we arrived home on Sunday morning, we still did not have power. We called around to all the hotels and there were no rooms available. When we then called Tom Walsh and asked him if there was any place we could go. He recommended that there was a shelter in Manamet open for all residents around this area. When we were on our way down to Manamet, my daughter received a message that the power was back on in our area, so we headed back to Carver. Alan just felt that you would like to know what that shelter means to Carver residents. My home was just too cold to stay in it, and by having the shelter to go to meant everything to my family. Thank you again for having this shelter available to us. Sincerely, Joan Cristiano and family. And I wanted to read this letter because there were so many people involved. Fire response, I believe, was like 87 over the course of that storm. Ambulance calls were 14, I think. Unlimited number of police calls. Everybody worked together. There was no, that's this person's job or that person's job. But then you had the shelters. B.J. Harriman, Glenda Harriman, Rick Leopardi. I know one janitor that was on duty when I went to visit the shelter, Jesse Resens. So school department people coming in to help. Then you went on social media. There were people that were, especially you got into Sunday and Monday, there were still a lot of people that didn't have power. They were putting out on Facebook, come to our house to be able to use their facilities, because most people are unwell. So, this was an example of everybody in the town coming together. There was no complaining about, well, why isn't this road open yet, or why isn't that road open yet? Everybody understood that it was a major storm, and they came together for it. And I think that storm, as damaging and destructive as it was, really brought out the best character of Carver and shows what Carver really is. So with that, I'll open it up to any comments from the rest of the board. Sarah, first.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm sure everybody here does. And I think the word Michael used was teamwork. These guys and ladies really are a team. And that's what Carver's all about.
Mr. Robertson.
I was thinking about the families at home. These guys are out on the road 24, 36 hours, 48 hours, and they have a family at home with kids and spouses that have to mind the shop themselves as they're out helping us. So, it's also a great big gratitude goes towards the families of these great guys that we get working for us.
Totally
Pull your microphone close. There you go.
not used to that. Not used to having to have a microphone. No, I totally concur with what everyone is saying. This town I'm so proud to have been here since 1992, looking at all of the response teams. But more important on this one, not more important, but equally as important, was the residents themselves. Just watching on Facebook the way people were coming together and not even knowing one another, it was just amazing. And I'm really proud to be part of this town. And I'm glad I made it my choice.
Mr. Clark?
Yeah, I was not in town for this one, but I was following it through Facebook and so forth, and I noticed that the new Chinese restaurant was offering free food for a period of time, and that, from what I understand, the whole community just came together, and it says a lot about the town, the way we respond and come together. But certainly, public safety. And just tonight, a resident was having difficulty getting a Comcast hookup, and they have a medical device that needs to be synced over the internet. And so I got hold of Tom Walsh, and he was able to track down the appropriate people. The people are now connected. The truck was out there right away. So all our public safety people, just kudos to all of them. They always come together. As long as I've been here, since '86, it's just been, when the chips are down, the community comes together.
Mr. Malinowski?
Mr. Chairman, just two other quick things is that, I think another story that goes untold is that this storm was so severe and there was so many different apparatuses moving on that Craig Weston literally was manning the control room over at the fire station, in essence directing DPW, operation and maintenance, fire engines, police cruisers, all around the town, during this storm, and it was just 24/7 that he was doing that. The last thing that I'll make is that clearly there was some significant destruction that happened in the storm, and you can see it across the street, you can see it as you're driving up and down, a lot of it to public property. With the board's concurrence, what I would like to do is to work with the Finance Committee and see if we can do a reserve fund appropriation to bring in some additional personnel, and maybe even students during the April vacation break or something along those lines to try to give some more jobs to kids to see. And again, I've got to work this all out with Dave Siegentoff and John Woods and everybody, but to see if we can get hire a bunch of kids or some short-time laborers to go around in certain areas and start to clean up things that are beyond the ability of our operation and maintenance department with their few people they have. And what I don't want to do is have to wait to the summer or to the end of the summer before we catch up. We've got so much stuff to do now that we just need the extra manpower, and I think this is a good way of doing that.
I'll entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'd move that the town administrator be authorized to work with the Finance Committee to come up with enough of a stipend or a sum of money to hire some extra people to help get the town cleaned up.
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Before we move on to the next topic, I know I'm hoping we have at least some people watching. This next storm coming up tonight, once you get past midnight, it'll start coming in. Right now, I think a good solid bet for Carver is 18 inches. I will not be overly shocked if we see up to 24. It will be a heavier wet snow, which means it'll be sticking to a lot of pine boughs, and with wind gusts up to the 45 to 50 mile per hour range. I would anticipate at least some more power outages. Also, for our poor highway crews, we are going to have hours, not an hour here, hour there. We will have hours of snowfall amounts anywhere from 1 to 3 inches per hour. Once you start getting up to 2 inches an hour, especially for 3 or 4 hours, no matter how hard our crews work, they're going to fall behind on those roads. Please refrain from cussing out, saying, my road's terrible, Carver roads are terrible. Everybody's roads are going to be bad. I don't care where you go in southeastern Massachusetts, Plymouth or Bristol County, they're going to be bad. If you don't have to go to work, if you don't have to go, stay home. The best thing you can do to help our DPW is to stay off the roads and let them clear them. Because nothing makes it harder than cars going up and down the road, so that's when you're packing it down and things really get icy. Do yourselves a favor, because it's going to be dangerous. Give our DPW a break. Stay home if at all possible. I know some people have to go to work, and But I know, and I know the governor is already urging everybody in eastern Massachusetts to stay home if at all possible, or take public transportation. So that's my one bit for tonight. Really, the real heavy snow probably moves in about 4 or 5. And this continues probably to 4 or 5 or 6 tomorrow afternoon.
Mr. Chairman, just for the public, when the DPW is out there with their plows, they're most efficient when they're not going at 5 miles an hour and they're not puttering along. They have to be at a certain speed so that they can scrape and throw the snow. So as the chairman was mentioning, by having pedestrian cars on the road that slow down traffic, it doesn't allow them to operate efficiently. And that slows down the progress, and it further creates the compacted snow. So, I mean, there are real public safety issues that we encourage everybody to stay home. And again, town hall and the schools, all town buildings are closed tomorrow except for public safety buildings.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I would just like to give you some kudos because of, obviously, the expertise you have in predicting the weather. When scheduling this meeting a couple of weeks ago, to have the foresight to schedule it for the Monday instead of the Tuesday,
You like how that worked out?
it speaks to the brilliance of your forecasting abilities to have predicted 2 weeks ahead of time,
And it's
knowing that we'd have this sort of a snowfall, and saying we better meet on Monday because Tuesday we won't be able to meet.
And we may not be able to have a meeting next Tuesday either.
Oh, same reason?
Yeah, maybe. Too early to tell.
Well, let's just leave it to this one because you got 100% success rate.
Yeah.
And the other thing, by doing it this way, I think that cut down on our attendance here tonight, but that's all right.
And I get to sleep in the morning. I don't have to wake up
Yeah,
before.
to sleep in the morning. Some of us have to be at work at 5. Thank you very much. Yep. All right, on that happy note, let's move on. Review of the annual town meeting warrant and approval of at least some of the articles, maybe.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Now, what you have in front of you is a draft warrant, and I'd like you to keep in mind that town council is still going through this document. I would ask the board to vote articles that are pretty straightforward, that you've done in the past, that are more routine, just so we can get those out of the way. And some of the ones that have, some extensive language changes for us to take place at the next meeting on the 20th. We're also going to have a presentation from Stephen Cole tonight to try to update everybody on the zoning articles and what the intent of each one of those are. So again, any motions that are made, I just ask the board's concurrence that they're all made subject to, town council, Scribner errors and editorial components that don't change the subject of the articles. So we can move those along. That being said, Article 1, this is a standard article. This is allowing the town to approve the annual town report and any reports from any of the boards or committees that wish to make an annual report.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on this article? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the article as written, subject to town council review, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 5-0.
Okay, Article number 2, what I'm going to do tonight is table that. This is an article that's still being reviewed. The storm is going to have some type of an impact because as of last week, we were within our annual snow budget, but filling up the salt shed and a minor ice storm that we had has certainly pushed us over that, and the storm tomorrow is going to be doing that. So I anticipate that most of the changes that we will have to make may have to deal with moving money over for snow and ice. And that's probably about it. But again, I would just say we table Article 2 until the meeting on the 20th.
Before we do that, a little bit of clarification of what I'm looking at here. From accounts listed to snow and ice deficit. Landfill post-closure receipts reserved for appropriation, XXXXXXX. In other words, you don't know?
So what you have is that's the actual article from last year. So we just
okay.
crossed off things that may be a different title that's under there, maybe a different funding source.
So pay no attention to that $1,381.24.
That is correct.
Then I will entertain a motion to table this one.
So moved.
Second.
Hearing moved in second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of tabling Article 2, please signify by
great.
saying aye.
Aye.
Article 3, this is our free cash allocation article, and although the numbers may slightly change based upon the school complex, the categories should not change. And just real quickly, going through those, the first item is the town school special ed reserve account. The school did need to use that money due to many students moving in from outside the district that were outside the foreseeable budget. Right now, from a straight math exercise, I have $37,030 in here. I intend to increase that number once I get the updated number for the middle high school, which should go down, and then move that money into this category. So that 37 should go up, and then the next item, the school complex at the middle high school, this is the amount of free cash, again, minus their final revisions, that will be added to the CPC article, which will be Article 6, where the CPC is putting in $3.25 million into the project. And this 917, or some smaller number, 917, is what the budget's going to be for the sports complex. The sports complex has been unanimously approved by the Sports Complex Committee, Track and Field Committee, I guess we're calling it. This has been reviewed by the school superintendent, the athletic director, members of the school committee, and the number originally was closer to well over $5 million. The committee was able to reduce that number down by taking some items off of that. And again, we're pretty confident this is a good project to go forward with, and we do have the unanimous support of the CPC as well.
What about the finance committee?
The Finance Committee has not reviewed any of the capital projects. They've just been working on the operational budget. But they are aware of the numbers that are here. And, you know, we probably cut it down by 20% when the original numbers came in. And took out some of the things that were more wants than needs. So we're really just focused on the track, the new football field, it being artificial turf with the proper drainage and a fenced-in area, and also a drop-off area for the buses to make it safer with the lighting. I mean, that's really the component of it. And there's some stands and a press booth, the kind of the high thing that looks there. There's no frills on this one. It's good quality material. It's built for durability. But again, if it didn't fit into a need, it's pretty much been eliminated. And the other thing that's good about this is we'll have the bids in before town meeting. So we'll know what the actual cost is at town meeting as well. So.
And, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yep.
So, Michael, you said CPC. Just for people out there who don't know what that means, it's Community Preservation Committee? Okay.
I do have $100,000 allocated here for townwide snow and ice. I suspect we might need a larger number, and that really goes to the previous article we just talked about. The next item for the DEP water line in North Carver, for the North Carver landfill. This is something that DEP is requiring in order for us to close down the treatment facility that we have at the North Carver landfill. And this would require extending the water line from where the church is being rehabbed into condos down to connect through somewhere between 4 and 8 houses. It's still depending upon what 4 or 8 houses to do. And right now, by doing this will allow those houses to connect to a public water supply versus using public wells, or the private wells that are there. And again, this is more of a requirement from DEP, and it's a one-time cost to do that. Once the town actually pays for the extension and the hookup, after that, the individual owners would then have to pay their water bill going forward. They have a choice to hook up or not hook up, as per DEP regulations. But this has kind of been an agreement that we've been working with DEP for the last, I want to say, 12 to 18 months with the health department, the health inspector, and also our operation and maintenance people.
Michael, can you remind us, or me, what will be the remaining free cash once we expense this out?
All our free cash will be spent for this year. So the free cash is one-time money that comes. So the $1,689,719. That's what our free cash allotment is for this year.
Have we always brought it down to zero
Yes, we do.
every single year?
Because what we do is we have our stabilization funds, we
Yep.
have a reserve
Right.
funds. So this is always one-time money that we're able to do these type of special things.
Yep.
And we do drain that down every year. In past years, which was a big no-no, is free cash was used to pay operation budgets.
Oh, I remember.
So none of that's in here. None of that's in here.
Great.
Michael, are we talking about Lakenham Drive, or where is it going to be extended to?
Yes, right from Lakingham Drive across the little stream that runs by
Down towards where Hap Harriman used to live, down towards Mr. Ward's house, where the bog is almost right up on the road. As you go past the North Carver Green, heading east on Center.
Over at King Phillips Brook?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
The next item is a permit GIS tracking software, and this is for our permitting department. This will allow them to electronically follow all permits through all the different departments, allow everybody to be more efficient and effective. It'll also allow for our assessing department and our finance department to see what's going on. It'll also tap into our fire department as they issue permits as well, so that we'll have a better accountability of all of the inspections that need to happen throughout the town. So this would be a town-wide permitting and GIS tracking software initiative. The next item, the fire truck for reimbursement. This is $25,000 that we had received as a grant, if you will, from the North Carver landfill when we did the solar project. Unfortunately, this was kind of swept into free cash when it should have went right to the fire department. So it was swept into free cash, and we're unsweeping it back. And in essence, this $25,000 is the supplemental funds for the new squad truck that you see running around. This is actually money used to complete that project. So again, this was money that was set for this project last year through that development. It got captured into free cash when it shouldn't have been, and we're just uncapturing it from free cash, going right back to the fire department. We have $20,000 in for the summer recreation program. And Elaine, you want to talk about that for a second?
So this past year, last year at town meeting, it was $15,000 was approved at town meeting for summer funding to startup funds for recreation. We were able to get a website set up that allowed for programs to be offered in a more streamlined way. You didn't need staff for signups. People could pay online, and we were able to pay a stipend to two people from the school who helped set up several programs, generated a lot of interest in town. There were programs offered for children of all ages, from 4 to 99, of all different interests. There was sports, crafts. This week they're actually going to go to a Celtics game, and the kids are going to get out to go out onto the court. Yeah, so it's experiences. So they've kind of are just exploring what works, what people are interested in, and also the Recreation Committee has been working hard on gathering a database. So our website gathers email addresses, so they're able to communicate through this software to say, here's our upcoming programs, let us know what you want, you can email us. So it's been a great tool, and it's really expanding the Recreation Committee's capability.
One of the downsides that we have in this town that we've addressed before is that we do not have a full-blown recreation program like most communities do, particularly the ones larger than us. I mean, smaller than us, so you get economies of scale, it's tough to do. But following the objectives of the Board of Selectmen to give kids alternatives, to give them alternatives to getting involved in drugs, to kind of tackle the drug problem, this is just one of those ways of giving kids activities to do. And, last year it was a trial piece. Unfortunately, I can't say we have money in our budget to put a full program together, but we're just starting to incrementally grow it. So this past summer it was a testing, and the test worked out well. We want to continue that testing and have them grow it a little bit well and use some of the revenue they collected to go into this program. And, next year we'll reassess it to see if we can grow it a little bit bigger. But it's trying to, grow this from a grassroots with enough seed capital to make it happen. And that's what we're doing here. And then the final item that we have. Sure.
Is this under the auspices of the Recreation Committee? Is this run by the Recreation Committee?
It is.
Okay.
It is. The funding goes through our office, and Elaine and I manage that, but it is actually operationally run by them. And the final item is the item that we see on our budget every year, which is the North Carver Water District for well and infrastructure. This is to support their debt program. I think, as I've talked ad nauseum to the board in the past, is that the business plan that the facility was run on was significantly changed by two things. One is that there was a major downturn in the economy, and some of the revenue that was anticipated to come from some of the customers never materialized. And the second is that betterments were waived, and those millions of dollars of betterments, because they were waived by the board, now are the requirement of the town to pay for. As a result, we historically have paid, anywhere from it's around $250,000 a year to subsidize the debt service. My goal is that, as development happens up at the Route 44 development, that will start to offset some of these numbers. And as we get more users online through that project, it will further start to offset those numbers. But for lack of a better term, this is kind of an investment. It's not the way I would normally do an investment, but in reality, it's an investment in our future of the Route 44 development. And, I can't defend it. It is what it is. We own it, and we got to pay it. And this is the best way of doing that.
I thought, haven't previous years, hasn't this come out of the capital outlay budget and not free cash?
So it's built into our capital outlay plan, but the funding source is free cash.
Okay.
So it is in the plan, it's where we have it in the plan, but, because this is a capital component, it's a debt piece, is we use one-time money from free cash to pay that off.
Okay, I just want to clarify on that.
Yep. So, those are the projects that are there, and the only thing that I'll ask the board to do is just to allow us a discretion to move money from the sports complex to the special ed reserve based upon what our final numbers are going to be for that. I anticipate it may move $50,000 to $100,000, somewhere in that neighborhood is what I'm anticipating, but I don't have those final numbers yet. And we do need, just so you know, we had $200,000 in the special ed reserve. And now, right now I'm looking at 37 plus adding a little bit more to it. And the only thing I'll just go back to the special ed reserve is I want to give kudos to Scott Neef and to Brad Brothers and to the school committee. I think that they're going to pass their budget tonight, is my understanding, which is the budget number the town has given them tied into our forecast, which is how it's been done the last 4 years. But they've really taken a hard line on trying to live within their means. And any expense that they can control, they're doing a good job of. And that's kind of really where I have to manage people, is what are the numbers they can control. I'll take the police chief, for instance. He has his overtime budget. Tied into overtime budget is doing special patrols, doing special investigation, covering sick time, covering vacation time. He can relatively plan for those year over year. But in years past, this town may have had a lot of people go out on 111F or go out on sick time. And then all of a sudden, if you got 2 or 3 people going out on sick time, you can't budget for that in the budget because there's no way of knowing for that. The same kind of model applies to special ed, is that the school is required to build a budget based upon what they know of the current students and what those foreseeable tuition increases are for the next year, and they do that. What they don't have control over is when we have out-of-town people move into the town that their children require special needs, or the state assigns a student to the town or to a foster parent in town. And at that point, then the town has to pick up the cost. You've heard me say this before. I think the town clearly has a responsibility for making sure all of its children are educated. I'm not debating that at all. I think one of the things that's problematic is that if you do have a child in the state foster care system, and if unfortunately that child requires 24/7 medical coverage in a medical facility, then the state will then put in a guardian for that student, or for the child, and when they pick that guardian, it's generally a foster parent, and that foster parent may just happen to live in Carver. And if that's the case, and we get lucky and that foster parent is picked to kind of provide guardianship for that kid who's never been in Carver, never will be in Carver, and is in a facility 24/7, well, that $200,000 expense is assigned to the town of Carver. And that's where the system's broken. So in areas like that, that's what this reserve fund covers for those types of things. Again, because I don't have a way of holding the school responsible for how to forecast that. And they're doing a yeoman's job of forecasting everything else very well. But that's why we have this special fund that we set up last year to cover these anomalies that are outside anyone's control. And again, that's what I'm trying to get some more money in to build back up, because this was a tough year we just had.
I'll make a motion to approve, to recommend Article 3.
Is there a motion?
Sarah?
Second. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion. I'm going to discuss. This is really going to lead into a problem I have with with the way things are for the whole warrant regarding all our new capital projects. They're in there individually in bits and pieces, but they're not, there's no way to really for the townspeople to be able to go ahead and debate them. I know there's feelings about the sports complex. Lord knows there's comments about the Council on Aging, and also the new police station. Now, these are a much smaller scale than the projects we've already taken on, i.e. the elementary school and the fire station. But those were all discussed and debated in town meeting floor individually. And I have for me personally, I think we should have separate articles on them for that debate. And one thing we might be able to do with this is sports complex at middle school, parentheses, pending approval of the project by town meeting, $917,689. I know why you did it this way, Michael, because it does make things streamlined a little bit. But I think this is a case, for me personally, this is a case where streamlining does not, it makes for a shorter town meeting, but I'll bet you in the long run it's going to make it longer, because it'll give more people more different bits to go ahead and bring up and argue. Let them discuss each project individually, and then vote on it. That's just my feeling.
Can I just
And
actually,
Wait, well, hold on a sec.
I just want to have a solution for that may solve this for this particular project. that
Okay.
I just thought of that kind of is really kind of neat. If you give me a second.
What?
Okay.
We'll give him a second.
Okay.
Seconds up.
Time's up.
So, funny. It's like talking to my kids when I tell them that too. The Article 6, which is the CPC, is really exclusively just on the sports complex. I can take this 917 out of here, out of free cash, and apply that to Article 6. So that Article 6 just deals with the sports complex, because, 2/3 of the funding was three-quarters of the funding was coming from CPC, and 1/4 was here. So that's an easy structural move to make. And then that means the sports complex is a standalone project within the CPC article, because there's no other projects in CPC.
Well, you're getting closer to me now.
So,
Yeah.
if I may,
Yep.
what we used to do, and what made the warrant look so long in the past, was that each of these would have been a warrant article. And you're right, it gave people a chance to debate. I'm a little worried if we put the sports complex, this 900,000 and change for the sports complex into the CPC article, then it will be unclear. Then you're going to have a double debate. Someone may like the idea of the Community Preservation Committee paying the bulk of but they may not want to take the 900 and change out of, so maybe.
Then the project dies. I mean, that's.
Well, my point is that maybe it should just be separate. Here's the sports complex money we're taking out of the free cash,
part-
and here's this.
So have two
Yeah,
sports
I-
complex articles
Well,
awarding,
you essentially have it now, but in this, the way it's framed this way, as Alan said, you can't really debate it. You can't untangle it.
I would recommend personally Article XYZ, whatever you want to call it. Purpose, to build a sports complex, the Carver Sports Complex at the middle high school to be funded by free cash, $917,689, and from CPC bond, da-da-da-da-da-da.
So
Now,
let-
that'll, because we're bonding, that's going to require a two-third vote, but I would
So
include
how-
both those spending, huh?
So how about an article with an A and B part that they can vote separate?
I think it's just as easy, just, yeah, if you want to do that.
Yeah, because Alan, you have to have the CPC, the only one that can put the article together for CPC is not the selectmen, so you don't have control over that. That's the CPC. So
Okay.
the CPC has to do their $3.225 million. You have no say in that, you can vote it up or down, but you can't adjust it.
So could we
And
put
then,
it?
so what I'm saying is with that, then we have that as kind of built into that article is a Part B that does the 917.
Okay,
And then it's,
so that's getting to Sarah's point.
yes.
All right. Ron,
Because that's the only
you're...
one that's contentious, really.
I would
The
think
other
so.
one-
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but that's all right. Right
From
now,
these funding sources, the answer is yes, because this is a free cash and there's a CPC.
yeah,
And I think that that's a good argument to make for this one. I think the capital, I think, is not a good argument to make, but at least for this one, it is. Because you do have two funding sources. With the capital, it's one funding source, it's straightforward, and the town meeting always has the authority of breaking up the articles if they so choose to. But here, it's two funding sources, it's a little confusing the way it is written now. I think through our discussions right here, putting it with the CPC, it's very straightforward going forward with this project.
Mr. Clark, you're looking deep in thought.
just absorbing.
Okay.
Alan,
Yes, ma'am.
what other one do you think should be separated?
No, I'm just, on this particular article, the only one I'd like to see out of there is the sports complex.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
That's the only one that really needs a lot of debate.
Exactly.
Or at least
Out of this
foresee that
group
people
right
are
here.
going to want to talk
The
about
only,
it.
the only thing I might add, though, to Michael's point, that the town meeting can pull these apart if they individually want to, that instead of bullet points, you might have an A through whatever it is. And then they don't have to pull it apart, but if they so choose, they can specify. It's the second, they don't, instead of the
You know
second
what,
dot.
Sarah?
What?
Just, we know how town meeting goes.
I think it's,
You know they're going to want to pull, you know they're
not
going to.
necessarily, no.
All right.
In
For my
other
last
articles-
few months, how about we put a bet?
I think, I don't know, I think it's just a kind
There
of,
is no gambling allowed on town property.
Monopoly money.
So if I understand, Sarah, you're just asking whether or not we can put letters next to
yeah,
each of these?
that's all, that's all. But there's no, it's not a big deal. And that way, if someone says
Sarah
to the
suggested.
moderator, well,
But-
I want to debate one of these, then they can, instead of saying it's 1, 2, 3, 4, oh, it's the
Would you have a
fifth.
problem with like
Well,
A, B, C,
I guess
D?
the issue here in the last 4 years, we've never had anyone question the free cash articles being put like this. We've never had anyone question the capital articles done like that. Many other areas, we do A, B, and C, but for all these items, you know, this is how we're proposing to spend the free cash. This is how we're supposing to do the capital, because the capital outlay committee goes through its review and says, here's all the projects. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's the Board of Selectmen's decision, but for the last 4 years, the way Article 3 is set up is how it's always been.
And did
Well,
you
it
want
just
them
goes to-
closer- Sorry,
just
Sarah.
goes-
Did you want them closer together, though, so they could see the whole picture? Or will that be clearly explained when we're
Well,
going
my,
over the...
my point was, to Alan's point, was that it pulls them apart a little bit if they're separated like that. And then they
Well,
can
no, I
say, can
agree.
we discuss Article 3B, or, you know.
And we'll hope to God they don't, but, you know.
Yeah, I don't have a problem just putting letters next to them. You know, it may not make any difference at all, but for
Probably
clarity purposes, it's a little,
So could can I entertain a amended motion that states for Article 3, except pulling out the sports complex at Middle High School to be included with the CPC
No.
article?
yeah.
And then lettering townwide
That's not what we-
DEP permitting fire truck, summer recreation, North Carver water as A, B, C, D, and E. And
I
I-
thought we changed that
That's-
to keeping it in free
No,
cash and
no.
lettering them.
No, the school complex pulling out.
We were
and
talking
putting
about
it
pulling the
with-
school complex out and putting it with the CPC
That was
article,
original.
A and B.
Then it went
Then I
back.
thought,
And Michael's going to call those A and B. We think,
Right, but then the rest of these would just have a letter next to them.
that's all.
gotcha, okay, so it's gonna be
Yeah.
both.
So do I hear a?
But can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, It's gonna be lettered on.
I'm uncomfortable, or maybe I don't understand, which is probably the same thing. It says, we're asking the town to vote to transfer from free cash to a specific thing. So why would we take something out of a warrant that's free cash that we're going to transfer into something else and put it somewhere else?
Because
We're
that
talking
way
about
you're
free
all-
cash in this article.
I understand that, Dave, but the thing is, with the sports complex, that will give them two different articles they can argue about or discuss the sports complex, whereas when we pull that one out of the it narrows their focus to concentrate just a debate on the sports complex.
And also, I'm just making this up, but if there were a large contingent of people that wanted to vote down the sports complex, they couldn't then, because it's packed into this one article, the whole article would go down. So this way you're taking it out, and now it's just that issue over here. Did I say that?
No, I understand. I understand what you guys are doing, taking the 900, but the point is, we want to transfer some free cash. So now we're going to put it in some other article.
So the article,
Why don't we
correct me
move
if
other
I'm
stuff
wrong, guys,
around?
but I think the CPA article would say, and this amount to be funded through the Community Preservation Act fund, and this amount to be funded from free cash, because you always have to state where you're getting your money from.
I understand. Just seemed to me we could just leave it, but
The only-
I'll bow to your wisdom.
The only thing is when we're going over free cash at the town meeting, we have to be clear that there's one more.
I'll put into the
free
informational
cash.
summary
Okay.
that X number of dollars is going to be in there in Article 6
In a future article.
Yeah.
for that. And the only, so just to summarize the motion to make sure that we've all got this, is that we will label each one of these items A through G. We will remove the sports complex, middle high school 917, to put that into the CPC article, and acknowledgement that the $37,000 in the special ed is probably going to increase.
That sounds like a wonderful motion to me.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded, actually amended and seconded. Any further discussion?
No.
I think Tom Richter is giving me evil eyes, saying, don't let any more discussion on this.
I didn't see an evil eye.
I'm doing evil eye.
All those in favor of the amended motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0.
We're gonna see the first snowfall if we keep going like this.
And I might mention that in the olden times, when we used to have 68 or 75 articles, we'd have 15 articles that each would say to fund from free cash, to
Right.
fund from free
Oh, yeah.
cash, to fund from free cash. So I don't know that we necessarily need to always even advertise. As long as each article says where the money's coming from, that's all that really matters.
And, you know, we're trying to avoid that jack-in-the-box thing, that you're up and down, because, you know, we're getting less and less people going to town meetings. Sometimes they don't like some of the speakers at town meetings, so they don't come back. So I think our goal, and my recommendation to you, is that as streamlined as we can keep this, is better to have more people come back. Now, if town meeting wants to break things up, that's their choice, that they can always do.
I agree with you, but to me, there's just a couple of things that have gone, we've been more and more streamlined, and you get to a point where the streamlining just gets too darn confusing for not only the general public, but even for me. And I mean, I'm staying in an extended stay hotel tonight, and I'm still getting confused by some of this, so.
I don't know, I'm not
What
sure
was
the
that
connection
all
between.
about? That is July.
I'm not a doctor, I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express. Well, that was already full, so I'm going to a different hotel tonight.
Oh.
You guys, you don't watch much TV.
Anyway, Article 4.
Moving on to Article 4 before I get
Like I
into any
said,
more trouble.
We're gonna see the first snowfall.
Mayor, I
Yeah.
think you still have a motion on the floor.
Oh, he's
You
right.
have an amendment you
Oh.
voted on, you've not voted on the motion.
I thought we voted on that 5-0.
Oh, yeah.
You voted on the amendment.
Yeah,
The amended article became the article.
So you don't vote on the motion as amended?
No.
I think,
Well, that's what we did.
actually, that's what you said. You said as amended.
Yeah, Alan proposed an amended article, and it was second, and I moved it, someone seconded
I
it.
seconded it.
And we voted that. So that became the article that we voted. That became what
So
we
you didn't
voted.
vote for the amendment, you voted for the motion as amended?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
I stand corrected, thank you.
Yep.
I was trying to follow it now.
No,
It's
Don't
rough.
try.
It's rough.
yeah, so that was your mistake.
As soon as he started talking about where he's staying in a
That was the
hotel
whole, I
tonight.
didn't stay at all.
Hey, and hey,
That's just it,
Obviously,
yes.
I-
another few months, then somebody else could have this chair. So,
And this one.
moving on to Article 4.
Yes, so Mr. Chairman, at our last meeting, the Board of Selectmen unanimously approved the budget for the town. This is our standard budget article we've had for the last 4 years. This is how it all plugs in. Again, all articles are voted subject to town council final review, but I don't see anything different in this at all.
Make a motion to approve Article 4?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve Article 4 as written, pending approval by town council. Any discussion? Hearing none, pardon me, I'm just looking ahead to one little thing here. That's where, okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Article 4 approved as written pending the okay of town council.
Article 5, I think we've had a little bit of preliminary discussion on this. This is the standard article that we've been doing for our capital improvements that was voted by the board at the last meeting for the dollar amounts and also unanimously recommended by the Capital Outlay Committee. As you see in here, there just needs to be the language for the COA facility and also for the police. The COA is $2.5 million, the police is $4 million, plus another $500,000 contingency. So this article does have built into it not only the equipment that's purchased above, but it also does have the COA in the police facility in here, which is not unlike what you did last year with the capital article also had built into it the renovations to the middle high school, roof, doors, windows, and repair, which is about, I think actually reduced that one down from $9 to $7 million, if I'm not mistaken, last year. Again, I'm just saying this is how we've done it in the past. It's up to the board if you want to continue to do it this way. But we have the capital projects built into there. We have the bonded projects. They're all paid out of capital. That's why it's been put together like this. But it's your choice.
As a compromise, can I throw out there, list them all A through whatever the heck it is.
Yeah.
It turns out, and that way the motion would be to move that article, sections A through, and then if somebody from town meeting
just
wants to
pull
pull
them.
out G and F, one at a time to debate fully, then they can go ahead and use that to signify, okay, we're debating about the COA or the police station. Anybody got a problem with that
Oh,
one?
that's good.
No, but I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just a little bit confused on this one.
Oh, thank God I'm not the only one.
Oh, good, because I see the big chunk of the 2 million and then, and everything else, and then a total of 2,891,000, blah, blah, blah. But then it says add COA and
Yeah,
police.
those will be showing up later. They're not here yet.
Well, how
is that
can we
correct?
vote on that if we don't have a clue?
Well, Michael just gave us the number.
So the COA is going to be $2.5 million.
Okay, all right, and I was trying to
So
plug
that's,
that into
so I've got a
it.
little additional language I have to write. So first, let's start the $2.8 million above. That's, in essence, Part A.
Yep,
Part B would be the COA facility at 2.5.
okay.
Part C would be the police station at 4 million.
Okay,
And I've got to build in the $500,000 contingency somewhere in there. So I
so
gotta,
roughly 10 million.
yes.
Affirmative.
Now, when it gets to B and C is a bonded piece where the 2.8 above is cash.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I think, weren't you just saying you wanted to see each of these lettered individually as well?
But, yeah, A, maintenance front end loader, B,
Be replaced the
placing seal and tie.
All right, so I'm down at I and J.
No,
Right,
that's,
exactly.
whatever it is, and L and M or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
I do have one question, Michael. You got all those wonderful numbers at the end, on the side, right side there. Then you have network implementation oversight townwide maintenance contract, $2,080,395.
Yeah, so you need to read the line above that too, because
Oh, okay, debt service, okay.
that's all the debt service. That's why that adds up to that big number.
Because I've seen that 2,080,000 and then 2,891,000. It's like, what am I missing here? So, okay, that explains
$2 million
it.
on networking. That's
Thank
one
you.
of the components that's in the capital plan.
Okay.
Part A, Part B, Part C.
All right, so, Mr. Chairman, just so make sure I understand, this article is going to appear with a letter next to each of these items, and we're going to be adding the COA with an additional letter and the police station with an additional letter. We know the COA will be listed at 2.5 million.
Correct.
And the police station will be listed at 4 million, and that's what we're being asked to, with that revised format, that's what we're being asked to vote on now.
That is correct.
So Elaine just had it laid out good. Is the first A through K of the 2.8 is Part A,
Yep.
blah, 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 blah. And then Part B is the COA, and Part C is the police. And Part A has A through K.
Oh, I like that. That way they're actually separate. So
Capital
they,
A, capital B, capital C, lowercase A through K.
I mean, technically, in formatting, you'd go letters to numbers.
Or capital to lowercase, right?
Yeah, because
Well, that's true, too. You could go
I'm
capital
good, capital to
lowercase.
lowercase.
But it does make sense, because A just requires a majority vote,
right.
whereas B and C will require two-thirds.
Two-thirds.
Two-thirds, yeah.
So it's just as well to separate them so that we're not having to...
Good job, Elaine. Thank you for keeping us straight. Okay.
Good job with that.
Do I hear a motion on that? By the way?
As revised. So moved.
Sex.
A motion made and seconded. The revision. Do I hear any discussion? Or any more discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor of Article 5 as has been revised, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We all right on that?
Can you say that 5 times fast?
No. I was lucky to get through it almost once.
noticed.
Thanks a lot. Article 6.
So Article 6, as you see here for appropriation, obviously the CPC, we've already discussed this. Items A, B, and C are already listed there. So I guess what I'm going to propose is we have a capital D at the end that's going to be the free cash, from free cash, of the 917 or smaller amount for the sports complex.
Okay, where in here?
Actually, I
Is
take
the-
that back. Let me start over.
Okay,
again.
go ahead.
A, B, and C, okay?
Yeah.
Then from there, then we're going to have D, which is the first paragraph, to rescind. Then the next paragraph is going to be E, which is for the sports complex. And the final paragraph will be F for the free cash of the 917,000 minus what gets put into the school piece.
Gotcha.
So moved, as described.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Would you like to?
I was waving to Sarah.
Oh. Mr. Robertson.
I was catching the wave.
Oh, Lord, help me. All right. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of Article 6 as now described, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? What we may have to do is when we get everything wrapped up for, I believe, April 6th meeting, is go through, just make sure we go through this so there hasn't been anything, and basically end up re-voting them if we have to, if it didn't go as we remembered.
Yeah, and I think we'll have them to you by the 20th,
Okay.
unless your forecast is accurate.
Miracles do happen.
All right. That's
Article 7, bylaw changes.
Okay, Article 7, last year, with the municipal modernization bill, we were able to take all of our revolving funds and vote them into the bylaw, so we don't have to do this for an article every year, that because they're the same thing every year, and it takes up, 15 minutes, 20 minutes for the same thing every year at town
But yet we
meeting.
have to bring this up again.
Well, except that there's one piece that wasn't put in there last year, which is the revolving fund for the GATRA buses. So in essence, Part A is to set up the GATRA bus revolving fund. Part B is to set a spending limit on it. So, again, last year you had about 9 or 10 items under Part A and 9 or 10 under Part B. This year you got 1 and 1, and hopefully we won't have to do this article again.
Got it.
But it's not really changing anything of the way we've done business, it's just reformatting it within the bylaws.
Correct.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Ooh, one without discussion, all right. All those in favor of Article 7 as written, pending approval by town council, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Let's see, Article 8 and Article 10. So I'm assuming there's an Article 9 in there somewhere?
Yes. All right, so that should be Article 8, and Article 10 gets deleted. So let's give it Article 10.
Okay, so it's just Article 8.
Yeah, it used to be Article 10, but we cut 2 articles out this year because we didn't need them, so we're now on 8
Good.
for zoning.
And so, someone's going to talk to us about,
Stephen.
Yes, we have Stephen come up and kind of give you an overview of
Stephen,
Article
come on
8.
down, identify yourself and what you are and who you are.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Dazzle us with what we're going to be doing.
And if you could tell us where you're staying tonight, that would be helpful as well.
I think that depends how long there's some debate and discussion after I talk.
If
the snow's falling, I might sleep under the
Can't
desk.
be too darn long.
But by the time we get out of here, it's going to be snowing, so.
Bet you it's not.
Please do travel safely, all of you. Stephen Cole, town planner. Not yet sure where I'm sleeping, but if we get any calls between, are we broadcasting live?
Yes.
Can we
Yeah.
take calls?
Somebody else that has to go to counseling there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Tonight, I'm just going to speak to you a little bit about some of the proposed zoning changes designed largely to help streamline process, but also to help clarify some other things. 2 of these articles are new to our zoning, 2 others are amendments. It's our goal to schedule a public hearing for the following proposed zoning amendments on or by April 2nd. Following the conclusion of the public hearing, the planning board will issue a report within 21 days to the town meeting with recommendations. The first article is rather simple. It's a parking lot design, section 3347. Presently, the zoning states that poles shall be 15 feet in parking areas and 11 feet in pedestrian areas. There's not a great deal of flexibility for applicants and developers, so the proposed change will allow some flexibility for applicants to construct lighting up to 20 feet tall.
I'm sorry. May I interrupt you? Are you talking about the Article 8 rezoning of Tremont Street?
Oh, no, I'm unfamiliar with that being an article. I think, Michael, we might have had that as a marker initially.
A is hereby deleted. He's on F.
Okay, thank you.
What happened to B, C, D, and E?
We're doing it in reverse order.
Okay.
Oh, I see, okay. I
Apologies, I
understand.
don't have a copy of the agenda. I'd be glad to go in the order you have presented here.
Not going there.
Oh, you're going to have me start with the solar. Okay, well, I will just very simply say that the planning board created a subcommittee to study the setbacks for solar applications. They are prepared to make a recommendation to the planning board, perhaps at our next meeting, which might otherwise have been tomorrow, but will be now on the 27th. That will be ahead of course, the April 12th public hearing that I mentioned to you. Adult use marijuana relative to the CCC's guidelines. Excuse me, as you're all aware, this is becoming live, and so we will be proposing new zoning to regulate the adult use of recreational marijuana.
Has the CCC given guidelines yet?
They do have some guidelines.
Oh, okay.
I will provide you, if you're interested, the
No, that's all
rather
right.
voluminous.
I know Alan's been very interested in this, so.
Just to be clear, the CCC is the Cannabis Control Commission.
Yes.
That's correct.
All these acronyms are.
The marijuana people. Sorry, Steve.
That's
Go
quite
ahead.
all right. No, I'm seeing here that B and D may yet be similar. So although the planning board subcommittee will be looking at the setbacks, it's true they will also be hoping to clarify some of the language in that as well.
So they haven't made a decision yet On the solar setbacks, they're still talking about it, am I understanding?
Subcommittee will be reviewing some language, I believe as late as next week, and then making a recommendation to the planning board as a whole on the
Okay.
27th.
So let me just jump in there. I think.
Before town meeting.
Oh, yeah, before town meeting.
Okay.
You know, I think with the solar and with anything is our regulations evolve, and they're dynamic. And so when the solar regulations were established, you know, they provided a way of getting started with solar with certain guidelines. Over the multiple projects that we've had, that have all been successes except for the first one, you know, is that the planning board has learned some things, and they want to make some modifications to that, still while protecting the neighbors in residential uses. But, you know, I think the great example that Stephen gives is that, and I'll let you give it from the standpoint of two parcels next to each other, two solars next to each solar, and how that goes.
Sure. So at present, if a project is located within a residential agricultural zone, there has to be a 200-foot setback on all sides, and it has to also be 100% obstructed from view. There's also a 50% landscaping requirement in that setback. And as Michael alluded, if you have two parcels that were adjacent to each other, immediately proximate to each other, and you have two solar arrays, you now have a 400-foot no man's land.
What was it?
Like two agricultural
Right?
parcels.
If a project, as I'm recalling the zoning, if the project is located in a RA, it doesn't matter what the surrounding overlay district is or underlying zoning.
Right.
It would be required to be 200 feet within
So it's
the
this
property line.
really onerous distance between the
What
project.
they're saying is that if you have two solar fields next to each other, you shouldn't have to have the 200-foot setback where they are butting up against each other.
Or in this
Right.
case, actually a 400.
Right, because this is what he's saying, if you have this and this,
Yeah.
and they're together, you got all that space in the middle. But really, why shouldn't they be able to do this if it's solar
Okay,
to
so
solar?
here.
It's all
Yeah.
solar.
If it's this is an example, if it abuts a solar to another solar, do you need this, or is it beneficial to the town to have this so we get more tax revenue? What's the point of that 400 feet in between two solar projects?
That makes
Who's
sense.
that helping?
Yeah. And
We
it's
didn't
not,
know that 5 years ago.
If it's a residence, you want the buffer.
Absolutely, that's what I
yeah,
want.
and two abutters are trying to put in the same kind of solar project. They're probably fine with it. Yeah. Yeah.
I only care about the residents.
There are elements in the zoning presently that have heightened landscaping requirements that would, as I mentioned, 100% obstruction of view. So despite the setbacks, they still must also achieve this higher level of screening from adjacent parcels, residential particularly.
Thank you.
We hope to clarify that. And you're welcome. Looks like we're on E, energy storage. This is one of those items that presently the use schedule is silent on energy storage. Essentially, we're talking about a battery, albeit a big one. There are several sections in the zoning that seem to support the proposed use. Nonetheless, planning staff would like to codify this use and seek input from our community in order to ensure thoughtfulness is applied to the dimensional requirements and the prescribed procedure for the permitting. And I did mention F already, which is the parking lots. At present, the zoning is very strict in so that it is required that the lights shall be 15 feet in parking areas, 11 feet in pedestrian. We'd just like to give some flexibility to the developers and the applicants. The advancements, we've actually received some informal commentary from engineers that we rely on. Because of improvements in LED lighting, you can actually obtain a greater radius if you were to have a 20-foot light. And it's sometimes proposed that it would be less invasive to the abutting neighbors. Fewer light poles, fewer lights, bigger radius that's covered.
Oh, one question on that. Do we have it that the light shines down
Yes.
as opposed to getting disseminated too far to, to try to help?
Yes.
Not have too much light pollution per se?
We do address that, and if in this case we find during public hearing that because of the height, that we would have to further clarify that or restrict that, then we will.
Yeah, don't the bylaws say it has to stay on the property,
I believe it does.
like the drainage? Yeah.
Right.
You know, with the LED lightings right now, they're really good in directional pieces, where the other lights, you had a big bulb and it went everywhere.
Right.
Now we're defining that, but the more height you have, the better. And a case in point, we ran into a kind of a technical glitch. It's that when the elementary school was approved, it was approved with a 20-foot light. Somehow it just slipped through the cracks, but the regulations say 15. So then when we started to do the sports complex, they were like, oh, let's do a 20-foot because we get better protection and less light pollution. And our engineer picked it up and says, oh, no, you can't. You can only do 15. And then our our project manager, who oversees both projects, goes, yeah, but we're doing 20 over here, and that was just approved, why are we doing 15 here? And again, this kind of clarifies that, because there should be some discretion with the planning board based upon new technology to make those adjustments. And then I guess we're really just talking a technology change that gives the planning board more flexibility.
Truly.
I appreciate all this because it's very informative, but considering that the planning board hasn't had their public hearing on it, and so a lot of details are left out, I'm inclining that I'd probably take a motion to table this one for now.
That's what I was going to suggest.
As opposed to.
So moved.
And we didn't have any intent of having you vote on this. This is just a preliminary
No.
overview of what they are. Right now, council's still finalizing the language with Stephen. And then, we may have that for the 20th to give you that as a full example, but, we are holding off until the hearing, until the planning board can opine on that. But we didn't want you to be surprised when you hear about a 15 versus a 20-foot light or solar. Just that we talked about solar,
Right.
there was a lot of history with solar, but really, these are the types of things we're trying to avoid. It's not like we're trying to do anything else. And as we know, the solar has been an economic tool for the town. It helped us reduce down the elementary school cost. We think the battery generation is going to follow suit, but actually even be potentially more valuable to the community. So that's why we want to have that into the zoning. And then, as Stephen said, there are several other things that need to be clarified and updated, because it is a dynamic process.
And the energy storage, we're just adding that because it's something that we just didn't have before. So we're just identifying it as another use.
So our zoning requirements, the way our zoning bylaws are, if it's not written in the zoning, it doesn't exist. And so therefore, there's ways to say that we might have battery in there, but it's gray beyond gray. And my suggestion when I talked to the board before is I want to do this as a marketing tool. I want to go out and say, we allow batteries for storage under these regulations, and here's where we want them. Come to Carver and invest in us.
Okay. I have a motion.
Well, is residential lights a 12-foot?
This is for parking lots.
No,
parking lot developments.
but I thought that there was a reference to the 12-foot pole for residential.
Pedestrian areas shall be 11 feet tall.
Okay, so the landing strip out front is 12-foot poles?
You can't go into that because we haven't had a second yet, so we can't go into discussion.
Okay. That was just a question.
Yeah.
Right.
Helen.
Thank you, Sarah. Second.
Motion made, seconded to table this article. Any further discussion or complaints about the landing strip in 58?
I can barely see outside, but go ahead.
Me too.
Stephen, can you just
Storm
put the
is
dates again when we're going to have the hearing?
Is it worse?
I'll be glad to. Yep. So the public hearing will be on April 2nd, and the full text for the proposed amendments will be available for inspection at the town clerk's office by March 16th.
All right. All those in favor of tabling, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 5-0 to table. Steve, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
folks.
you.
Enjoy your storm.
Thank you.
Stay
Did you get
safe.
any text about where to stay yet?
No. Did any of you? All right.
Article 9, please.
Mr. Clark?
I'll, for the purposes of discussion, I'll make a motion to recommend Article 9.
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded to recommend Article 9.
If I might
Discussion.
just give a quick overview, the intent here,
The operative word there is quick.
the intention of this article is to allow seniors that want to remain in their home the opportunity to reduce the tax burden by up to 30%. This could, at its peak potential, it could shift 8 cents per thousand from the seniors on to the rest of the residents. It would end up being a tax shift. The 30% that some of the seniors, and it's an income trigger. So it's not for every senior that's 65, 55, 60, 65 years old. They'd have to be at what's called the state circuit breaker level. Then they would be eligible to apply to the town and get as much as 30% of whatever their real estate tax burden is reduced. Best estimates are that would work out to be about 8 cents per thousand of a shift on to the rest of the residents. If average of $250,000 home, that's about a $20 addition to other people's taxes in order to allow people to age in place, essentially. So that's what it's proposing. It is tied to income. It's not available to every senior. We've looked at things that are more aggressive, but we feel that right now we want to try to make sure that seniors that want to stay in town and that qualify because of where their income is, have an option to do so.
And you'll be at town meeting this year to go ahead and,
If it doesn't change again, yes, I will.
I just want to make sure you're there to fully
I
explain it.
might add, recently in the paper, there was an article about a little-known tool that's available to seniors that are struggling with their taxes, that do want to age in place and stay in their home. Again, it's an income trigger, but they can go to the tax collector's office and ask that they have their taxes deferred, so they don't pay any taxes whatsoever. However, those taxes would get paid to the town upon their death or the sale of their home down the road, so.
So that's in place anyway.
That's already in place as an alternative. The problem
Is that a
there, of
state-
course.
Was that a state thing?
Yes, that's on the state level. The problem with that, of course, is that the interest that's charged on the outstanding taxes that accumulate is fairly high. So that would be cutting into a senior's estate if they want, that they're looking to pass on to their, which is what I think makes this as an alternative of reducing the tax burden for a senior. So that's what I would,
So are we voting to put this on the warrant, or are we voting that we support it?
well, this would be the time when if you did not want it to be on the warrant, you could ask it to be removed.
Yeah.
It's also being asked to recommend it, or you could vote to take no action.
Well, you can vote to put something on the warrant and not be in favor of it. I think they're two separate, and
Yeah,
not
and
be
not
in.
be in favor, right.
Yeah, I think those are two separate.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, normally we just take a vote to recommend it, but if there's a concern about you don't want to recommend it, then here's an example, we break it into two steps. First step is put on the warrant, second step is do we support it?
Yeah, I'm just not ready to make a decision on this for myself personally. I want to think it through. I mean, this is a big decision. So,
So why don't we,
I absolutely think it should be
two
on the
votes?
warrant for discussion, if you don't mind.
oh, yeah, no, that's what I was just saying.
Well,
That's where we
technically,
always
it's on
used
the
to be.
warrant as it is, so you don't have to really, you only have to take a vote to
that's
exclude
true,
it from the
too.
warrant. So just be a question, if
Would
the
you
board.
feel more comfortable if we tabled this one until
Yeah.
a future date?
Yeah, I would myself personally, I just really want to think this one through, because everybody's struggling, but this isn't that drastic of a change, but
$20 to one person might mean more than $20 to another, so I understand that.
Exactly, and that's why I really want to think that out, especially with the tax increases and with the police station.
I'll even make the motion to table the article.
Oh, you know what?
You're going to
Second.
withdraw your previous motion?
I will now withdraw my previous motion and move to table the article.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hewens.
Excuse me, I would reserve the right, perhaps at one of our future meetings, to see if we want to have a recommendation by the time we get to town meeting.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. All those in favor of tabling this with no recommendation at this time, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, 0, 5-0.
All right, Mr. Chairman, the next article is the Stretch Energy Code, going forward for a fourth time.
Oh, Lord. Well, wait a minute.
Wait a minute, by this time, hasn't the state pretty much caught up so that
Yeah, I would think so.
the state
I think
regulations?
he's pulling our leg.
I was going to say, I do not see an article.
I was just going to say, that just made town meeting go for another day.
Yeah, really.
Excuse me,
Humor where he can.
but I'm looking at our proposed agenda here, and it goes from 9.
He was pulling our
Yeah,
leg.
Article
There is
11
no
is
10.
10,
11 is 10.
and 12 is 11.
Are you hearing this?
All right, moving on to Article 11, which is really 10.
Yes, Article 11, which is really 10, again, these are the standard nonprofits that come to the town requesting money. We have YPAC, Young People's Alliance for Carver, for $5,000. We have the South Shore Community Action for $5,000. We have the Plymouth Area Coalition for the Homeless. We have the violence for $5,000. We have the Violence Intervention and Prevention Programs for $6,000. And then we have $4,000 for the South Coastal County Legal Services. for free legal and civil matters.
Are any of these new from
Yeah,
last
but
year?
D is new, isn't it?
Well,
You, please go right ahead.
Yes.
Elaine, I'll give you permission to say something.
so legal services was not on here last year because they missed our deadline. They were on it in the past.
That's what I thought.
And we did receive,
That's, E was not on last year, but has been on in the past.
Right,
But
and-
D has been on.
we did receive
Just didn't remember.
usage of all their services from all of these agencies. If
Okay.
any of you want to see
I'll
that.
make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve Article 10, which is Article 11, which is really Article 10. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And Mr. Chairman, we'd recommend that Article 12, which is really Article 11, just be tabled to a future meeting for a future discussion.
Or we could vote to just take no action on it, period.
You could, but I'd wait till the next meeting to discuss
All right,
it.
I'll
Make a
take,
motion to table Article 11, which is
Second.
listed as Article 12.
do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have a second for Mr. Robertson?
I know, second that.
All right.
I wasn't in the wave. You know, I gotta
missed it.
I gotta get inclusive here.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of tabling Article 12, which is really Article 11, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0 to table. And so that takes care of that at 8:27, 8:25 according to the computer, and considering we had till 8:30 to get this
Oh,
done,
not bad.
And still
we have-
champion. Al
we're on
Bono.
time. Now, next is, what the heck did I do? Don't run off.
Oh, so this is,
Moving up to the town administrator update. You're up.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., we have a meeting with the Council on Aging Board of Directors that has been postponed and is no longer going to be tomorrow. Then on Wednesday, we were having the St. Patrick's Day Luncheon, which is the 14th, to kind of go over the COA project. That has been postponed to the weather, which is now going to be on Thursday, the 15th. However, we're still on schedule for Wednesday night at 7 p.m. at the library to have a community-wide Council on Aging update for the building facility. With Carol Julius and myself and Bill Harriman, we've had several visits with people down at the COA facilities, talked to the chairman down there and others. And at our meeting on Wednesday night, I think one of the things that we just want to make perfectly clear is the conceptual drawings that people have seen are just that, conceptual. They are not what the final outcome is going to be. That'll be left up to the committee with input from the community once a architect and a designer has been hired to go through that process with our project manager. However, that being said, one of the things that we want to make sure is out there, because we've had discussions with this, is that the COA facility is proposed to all be on the first floor. All of the uses are intended to be on the first floor. We may move some of the library uses to the second floor, but that's part of the discussion that we want to have on a Wednesday. And some of the ladies, the young ladies that are down at the COA facility wanted to make sure that I clarified that for everybody, so I am. And again, that is what the recommendation would be, is that if approved by the town, that we would make sure that all of the rooms that are necessary for the COA facility would be on the first floor. Now, having said that, there's a million different other discussions on should we have square windows, round windows, should the door be on the left, should the door be on the right, what color should it be painted, how big should the kitchen be, should we get a 6-burner stove or an 8-burner stove? I mean, those are all the details that'll come out in the future, but I think, one of the major components was to make sure that all of the uses were on the first floor. And there is still a push by a few people that they want to have a standalone facility that can only be used by seniors. No kids would be allowed, no other departments would be allowed. But again, their primary focus was to make sure everything's on the first floor.
But, well, again, when you mentioned kids and other departments, it's not as if when the COA is in operation that you'd have kids in other departments wandering around there.
Correct.
When the COA is functioning as a COA, it's strictly for senior citizens.
Correct.
So that, just in case, they didn't want anyone to be confused by, because I know that keeps coming up. But the idea is to have the building, when it's in operation as a council on aging, to be strictly for seniors, except, if others are invited in, the brownie troop or whatever might be invited in and so forth.
During this public meeting, is it strictly an informational, or will members of the public be allowed to present ideas and concerns?
Sure. So Chairman Bill Harriman has put together an agenda for the meeting. I believe that's already been posted. There's going to be a presentation on the project, kind of going over the finance and an overview of the project, just for those people that have not attended one of our events and may have some information that others provided. We want to make sure everybody has the same factual information. So that's going to be the first part of the presentation. The second part of the presentation is going to be for comments from the public. And Bill Harriman has broken that down into kind of two components. One is he wants to hear from the users. He wants to hear from the seniors. That's who he wants to hear first from. Then if there's others that want to speak because of whatever it is, they have the right to speak, but he wants to hear from the users first versus people that may have an agenda one way or the other. So it is open for public comment. Everyone will have a chance to speak, but again, it's primarily focused in the beginning of the discussion for seniors to share their concerns and support for the project. And so far, we've gotten a ton of support that this is finally going to happen. And I think what's also important, and I've talked to the seniors about this, is, last year when we put money into designing the facility and moving forward with it, we knew at that time that the COA facility, the Atwood House, was, costing a lot to repair. It was in disrepair in many different areas. Yes, there was investment in the roof. Yes, there was investment in the bathrooms. But that was all done without a financial plan for the town. That was all done without a capital plan for the town. That was all done without a vision for the town as to how we were going to fund these. Now that we have that vision, that capital plan, we've been able to demonstrate that financially we can build these. And as it relates to that, is that as we've identified that, the condition of the building's gotten worse. Whether it's we were closed down for a few weeks this winter because of pipe freezing, whether it's because we lost power, we don't have a generator, whether it's because we had septic issues, whether it's because we have to walk outside down the steps with another 10 feet before we can get to the freezer. I mean, these are all problems with it, plus the fact that the seniors have to walk so far up and down stairs, up and down ramps to get in there. It is not a conducive facility for how we should, the facility we should be giving to our seniors. And as a result of all that, that's why it's been moved up in the process, because we've been able to accomplish all the other projects. And this is the last one that's standing, so to speak. This and the police station, and we have a proposal to fund both of them.
And I think I just want to add, because there's been, I think, some misunderstanding. We didn't have a complete, detailed, exact structure of what the fire station was going to look like when we approved the money.
Yeah,
That's when the
absolutely
work
not.
began, and they drew it up, and they cut, and they pasted, and did everything. Same thing happens with the police station and with the Council on Aging. We have a rough idea of the money that's going to be necessary. The idea is to go out and build the best COA and the best police station we can. And like the fire station, if after doing all the dedicated work, it turns out we'll come up short of money, we will return to town meeting and ask for additional funds, just as happened with the fire station. But the intent is to try to do it for the monies awarded, and if it turns out that we can't get a quality product for that, then just like we did with the fire station, we'll return to town meeting to ask for an additional sum to be awarded.
Well, and as Michael pointed out at our last meeting, when you were here, basically there's the 4.1 or 4 million, plus there's a 500,000 contingency fee, plus I think 250,000's already been up, so we're already up to 4,750,000.
Right.
So, I mean, it's more than just that 4 million for the police station.
And we're emphasizing, as Mr. Clark just mentioned, this is a preliminary budget. We do intend that we will most likely have to come back to get additional money out of the Capital Outlay Committee. The Capital Outlay Committee acknowledges that. They presented that in our last meeting. They're aware that may happen, and they have, contingencies for that. So it's not like this is it. And we want everybody to know it's highly likely we'll be back.
We will give the police department and the seniors what they need.
Yep. And we'll be able to, at that point, when we come back, have hard numbers. You know, and I think that's one of the advantages of with the police station and just how we're doing the sports complex. We're going to town meeting with a hard number. You know, and I think that that's kind of the transparency we need to show the public.
Speaking of police station,
So the police station, we had our first meeting last week that Bill Harriman, who also chairs that committee, ran. And we had our full committee at that meeting. We'll be meeting in 2 weeks. Dave Robinson was at the meeting as well. At our next meeting, Bill and the chief are working through the owner's project manager RFP. That's really our first major action, is to go out and hire an OPM to come in and help facilitate the project. So at our next meeting in 2 weeks from now, or a week and a half from now, it's the intention of the board to vote to release that RFP, put it out there, and then get proposals back. And, you know, we're not going to, you know, award it probably until after town meeting, just because it's going to take a while for us to review the proposals, send them out, give them time to respond, and then we also want to go out and visit several police stations as well. So I would say, you know, in the beginning of May, we'll be in a position where we can award that contract and then move forward with the support of town meeting. So that project is moving along, you know, very well now, following the presentation that the board had 2 meetings ago with our consultants from MRI presenting the police plan. Did I miss anything, Dave?
Nope, that's what we're waiting for.
any other comments, questions? Moving on to one of my favorite topics, Carver, Marion, Wareham Regional Refuse District.
So our next meeting, I think, is the 28th of March. We had our last meeting with the board. I think what's relevant here is there's a lot of detailed stuff that's going on. A lot of work with finances, a lot of work on administrative compliance, dealing with vacation time, payout time from previous employees, trying to get all the bank records so that we can have a good understanding of the whole entity. The board also authorized the 3 town administrators to move forward with implementing a plan to consolidate the 2 facilities into 1 facility. Right now, the cost of operating both the Marion and the Rochester facility is not something that fits within our budget. And we need to figure out how to not only address overspending that's occurred in the past, how do we manage the process for the next 3 years? And more importantly, after the 3 years when our contract ends, what is the next evolution of the entity? And how can we get the best rates out of Covanta for disposing of our garbage? You know, there's 2 things that are happening in the garbage industry right now. The first is the state produces 7 million tons of garbage. It has capacity within the state today to handle 6 million tons of garbage. 1 million is sent out of state. In the next 2 years, additional landfills are going to be closing down, which means that 2 million additional tons for a total of 3 million of our 7 are going to have to be sent out of state. That first 4 million tons is predominantly, I don't want to say predominantly, yeah, I guess predominantly used by these energy to waste facilities. So Covanta is designed to burn 1.1 million tons of garbage. It can't burn 1.2. It only has the capacity to get up to 1.1, and they actually like to burn a little less than that just from an efficiency standpoint. What that all means is, from a garbage standpoint, is due to additional trucking and disposal costs, is garbage rates are going to be going up statewide in the near future. In addition to that, as it comes to recyclable material right now is a big loser. The only thing that makes money is metal, and that doesn't make much money, and a little bit of cardboard. Newspaper and plastics and bottles you have to pay to dispose of them. And you know, it's even gone to the point that those things used to be prohibited from landfills, but DEP is allowing them to be put in landfills right now because there isn't a market for them. China kind of closed down that market a few years ago, or recently this year, when they went through and required testing for any type of recyclables to be 99.9% pure. You can't have any cross-contamination. An example of cross-contamination is if you have a pizza box. The pizza box, the top and the bottom is fine. That little round ring that the pizza sits in, that soaks up the grease to save us a few pounds, that's contaminated. So that can no longer be put in the waste stream if you're going to have cardboard. So that's considered garbage, not cardboard. When you put those into the mix of cardboard, then you have a contaminated cardboard pile that needs to be tossed. So the whole industry's changing, and I only mention that just because that just means that costs are going to go up, and we need to figure out a way of managing that. There also, at a previous meeting, the board closed down the brush and leaf component at the Rochester facility. Is that can't be dumped off anymore. The primary reason for that was, one, it wasn't allowed. Well, I'm sorry, that was allowed, but what was happening is many people that owned horses were dumping off horse manure there on a weekly basis. You're not supposed to dump off any animal waste. The whole facility turned out to be that it was being filled with animal waste, and you couldn't have that stuff biodegrade, so that's been shut down. And then the Marion is just about at capacity, so we're kind of working on that. I'm also working with the towns on looking at doing some type of, in the future, some type of a brush mulching weekend, to kind of rotate through the towns. But we haven't been able to finalize that. There's also not going to be any hazardous waste day this year or this spring. We're going to try to do one in the fall. What has happened with that is there's been a lot of abuses, and you'll hear about those over time with the whole system. The entire Marion Wareham Regional Refuge District, Disposal District organization was to take municipal waste and give you the opportunity of dumping that. It has since become a way of bypassing all commercial activities, so that at the hazardous waste day, you would have automotive repair shops pull up with barrels and barrels and barrels of fuel, mixed oil and everything, and give them away. Now that stuff costs, I don't know what the number is, but it's orders of magnitude more than it costs to get by gas, because you have to go to recycled. So now all of a sudden, the district was being hit with tens of thousands of dollars of bills to pay for the commercial clients. We've also, had people that have stickers that may go around for a commercial activity and fill up a dump truck, put a big tarp on it, drive over to Marion, back it up, and dump it all out. Well, that's not the purpose. The purpose is never for commercial. It's always been for municipal. So there's been a lot of abuses. We're trying to work through all those abuses to make this thing run better in the future. We have some plans. We're working through it. It requires some negotiation with Covanta. And I guess I would say I see some light at the end of the tunnel, but there are going to be changes. Changes have already been made. People don't like changes. You will get calls on those changes. But this is an issue we've been forced into. I remember one day we got a call, I think our health department, myself, the selectman's office, I think DPW, and then the same thing in all the three towns from someone that has horses and says, what am I going to do now? I don't want to pay $10 a week to dump my horse manure. He was always able to dump it for free. Well, I'm sorry, but, our regulations don't allow animal waste. You've been doing that, not in conformance with our regulations. So, you need to find a new space. And if it costs you $10 a week to do it, it costs you $10. I mean, maybe you can partner with some of the agriculture companies that want to have it for fertilizer and mix it in with their soil. I said, but you have to do that on your own. That's not part of what we can take. And we've had some people with the little boutique shop over in Marion, what's it called, Swap Shop? That apparently is run by some group out of Wareham, and they're all upset that we're going to close down the swap shop. Well, part of it is a liability issue, And there's been many issues with that component. Yes, there's a few people that use it, but it's a liability issue to make this organization run better. And I guess that's the bottom line is we've been dealt a bad deck, and now we have to completely do a reorganization and redevelop the organization to grow, in an economically responsible way in the future. That all said, the town's going to have to pay more. So, I mean, even with all those changes, we still anticipate the towns are going to have to pay more for this. What did I miss, Dave?
One thing you missed was CMAS has offered to come by and help with the education, the communication portion of this. This is going to be a huge change for Carver, Marion, Wareham, and Rochester, and she is over offered to come and help us. How we use her is yet to be determined. But and the final component is, as you can imagine, just before town meeting, Michael's job is a little bit busy with all kinds of things. But we've turned this particular problem over to the 3 town administrators, and Michael's taken the lead on this. And I'll tell you, just personally watching him work in that environment, he's doing an outstanding job. And, I'm sure his bandwidth is right up to your limit of what you can do. But, I just, for everybody listening or watching or anything, the amount of work and time you're putting into this is amazing. So, my thanks.
Just a couple other things that I just saw in my notes here. We're going to be exploring having a license plate reader at whatever facility we end up consolidating into, just because there has been abuse with stickers, and people either making up stickers or giving them to their friends. So the license plate reader will allow a car to go in or out based upon have they paid their sticker fee. We're also looking at doing a consolidated sticker across all 3 towns, and maybe Rochester is still working that out. Right now we charge $40 for 2 years. It's probably going to be $40 a year for each town going forward. And again, it's just to cover the increased cost of all this material. The towns and the commercial activity that's been using this has been receiving a ton of free stuff that no other town gets. And, we're coming to the sunset of that freebie. And, this is just reality we have to face.
We charge $20 for 2 years.
Is it 20 for 2 years?
One other thing I'd mention is that my recollection is years ago, the folks that were monitoring, on the staff monitoring the situation, they were all over, whenever I pulled up to drop something off, they were looking at what it was. And in recent years, half the time I can go in and leave and they never come out of the booth sometimes. And I think someone told me that they'd been advised to just mind their own business, sort of, so.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, but I think there was an incident there where they actually had to call the police because it got quite violent when one of the workers said, no, don't put that in there, and he threw it in, and it got very close to a physical situation. So I think they were advised to, if they see something, report it, but I don't know the exact level of their authority there. So
part of that is that I will tell you it's a thankless job, because in essence all you're doing is telling people, no, you can't dump that there, no, you got to dump it here, no, you got to wait in line to do it over there, and people just don't have patience. So part of this whole issue with putting in the license plate readers is to protect the employees, is that we're going to have cameras down there that can monitor what's going on, because at the end of the day, they've got a tough job to do. And we need them to be like they used to be in order to protect the towns, so you don't have the commercial haulers coming in there and dumping, tons and tons of garbage for free.
Well, I guess my point was, I think some of that was allowed to go on because there was no real monitoring taking place of what was being dumped.
exactly right, yeah.
Anything else?
Nope.
All right, moving on to Board of Selectmen update. Who would like to go first?
I think I already heard what I wanted to discuss anyways, was that great support we had from our first responders over the storm. That was just phenomenal, but we talked that to death, so.
Sarah?
I agree. That was kind of what I was going to say as well.
Mr. Clark?
Michael's already mentioned it, but just, I'm on the COA Building Committee, so just a reminder for people to come and hear an outline of the program, understand that nothing's written in stone as of yet, other than the concept of adding on to the back of the library on one story, and we just think in terms of, having the playground, the library, the COA, the town hall, the fire station, police station, all connected now with sidewalks and having a wonderful campus in the center of town, I just think makes a lot of sense, not to mention the economy, the scale of the economy savings that we have by attaching to an existing facility. There's a lot of infrastructure monies that are saved as a result of doing that, as opposed to a freestanding building, so.
Ron, are we going to have that meeting if it's still snow on the ground and so on?
That would be our Chairman Harriman's decision. My guess is, though, that with the caliber of the crew that we have in this town, that we will be dug out and ready to go.
You're probably
And I
right.
doubt seriously if they'll be accumulating snow by that
Okay.
Wednesday afternoon.
Excellent, thank you.
It'll be an opening on Wednesday.
Yeah, and then also, everyone stay safe tomorrow. It looks as if I think they said probably by, 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning it should start to be coming down. And they said really, probably from that time in the morning to about supper time, it's going to be the real heaviest part. So just stay off the roads if you don't have to. And then one of my favorite things, Edaville Railroad is opening up for weekends starting April 7th. My grandson is so excited that he'll be able to see will the dinosaurs be ready yet? I know they were shrink wrapped a little late in the season.
I'm not sure if they're out of hibernation yet.
Yeah, I guess I'll have to tell them they're still sleeping at that point. And I had mentioned to you, Michael, and you thought that people may not be aware, some of the residents may not be aware that if you're a Massachusetts resident, that the ticket prices might be different from what is advertised. I don't know if you had any further clarity on that.
There has been specials offered to Massachusetts residents that are online.
Okay.
That's about all I can say.
All right. But just anyway, so Edaville is opening up, and that's like with the Red Sox playing, it's a sign of spring.
Helen?
I just wanted to spotlight a local business today. USA Fitness has recently been repurchased by a local resident, and I just really wanted to encourage everyone. This is a Carver resident. There's a few Carver residents who are employed there, one being the fitness director. So I'm just encouraging everyone to seek USA Fitness out, go down, try it out, see what's new and different. And I've always been a strong supporter of trying to support local business, so they've always been there, but now we have a local resident that's...
I think he has 2 partners too, right?
That is correct, but I'm highlighting the Carver resident.
Yep, I get it.
So, give them a try. It's a lot of excitement down there right now. It's
Some cool remodeling.
isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's like coming back to being a community center again, so, and that's all I had for tonight.
All right. One more plug. Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. The only reason I do that is because there's been so much information, more or less, on social media. Some might not be totally correct.
Some more accurate than others.
Some more accurate than others. I like that. So this is a good chance to get right from Bill Harriman and the team of where they're at, what's the fact that, they'll explain again, nothing's set in stone, not even the total number of parking places. I mean, everything is up in the air on that.
And I think this board should pay special attention, because I think the majority of the board is eligible to utilize the COA.
Not yet.
Majority, I said.
Anyway, moving on. Also, for those who were concerned, as you heard when we went through the articles, but the residents will be able to go ahead and pull out the sports complex, the COA, and the police station for debate during town meeting. We broke up true, they're bundled within things, but they're easy to take out. All it takes is a motion to get that done. So I want people to realize they have a chance to have their voice heard on all three of those projects. And other than that, as Mr. Clark said, if you don't need to go out tomorrow, stay home.
May I just ask one question before we
Sure.
continue on? Are we planning on having transportation again for the seniors to town meeting? Are we going to offer
town
that
meeting?
service?
Yeah, I think so. We'll check on that. I don't see why not.
Okay.
All right. Approval to join mass tort litigation, the consortium of the mass opioid litigation attorney. What is this all about, sir?
Okay, so you have in your packets, can I see the packet? So what you have is, obviously there's a national outcry right now with opioids and how they have, it appears that some of the big pharmaceuticals may have been, for lack of a better term, improperly promoting these to everybody and not fully addressing their addiction quality. So many of the towns in the Commonwealth, led by the Attorney General, which also includes our law firm K&P, is moving forward with not necessarily a class action lawsuit, but something along those lines to try to recover money to the towns and to the health system to cover some of the rehab and the addiction qualities that need to be done. So this is something that the Chief Dufely brought to my attention. It's something that he is promoting, just like I think 2 months ago or 3 months ago, we supported a state initiative to tighten up on the opioid restrictions. And, the law states that, when a new drug is synthesized, that until that's memorialized in state law through the legislature, it doesn't exist, so the law enforcement couldn't do it. That law allowed that to be covered, so any new, addiction drugs were covered by that piece. So again, this is just another push of trying to move forward on trying to stop the unnecessary spread of opioids. So we don't have doctors just giving away like candy. And then too often kids get addicted to these, through a sports injury or something like that, and it just goes on to the next thing. So, I guess it's similar to the whole cigarette issue, is that the cigarette industry knew what the damage was and was not doing anything about it. I think the same thing applies here to opioids. So again, many towns are joining this, and Chief Dufely has asked me to bring it to your attention to have the town of Carver join this with our law firm and many others.
Mr. Chair? Could I just point out these 3 things on the information sheet? As Michael said, it's not a class action, it's a mass tort litigation. And I didn't understand the difference, but it says here that the class action suit requires all participants to have essentially the same injuries. But here, the damages from one municipality to another are very different. So that was a good point. And then that we're not suing individual doctors or pharmacies. And last but not least, individual municipalities will not have to bear the cost of the litigation. So that's good to know.
Yep.
Thank you. But Michael, who are we suing if it's not individual doctors? I'm a little confused.
Oh, this is going right after the pharmaceuticals, the ones that produce the opioids, the ones that
Okay.
have been out marketing it, the ones that have been trying to give incentives to doctors to use it more.
Yeah.
So it's going after the pharmaceuticals, is my understanding.
I'll make a motion to approve joining the mass tort litigation.
Second.
Okay, second. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 5-0. All right, moving on to minutes. Since we weren't all here for both meetings, I'll entertain the approving of the February 6th meeting.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
I will be abstaining from that one since I was not here.
You're still allowed to vote, technically.
I'd rather not.
Okay.
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. And now for the...
Well, if you abstain, it's 4-0.
Okay, 401.
Oops.
I never understand that stuff. It's all right.
It's a vote, it's just not a yes
Where
or
are
no.
you staying tonight?
None of your business. And now for the meeting on February 27th.
I was not there.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
That was it. I'll
Come on,
make a
here's
motion
your
to
chance, Dave.
finally.
You're blowing your one chance,
Finally, and I'm
David.
tongue-tied.
Okay,
Was that a motion to approve?
A motion to approve the minutes for 27th.
Second.
Motion made and second. Is any discussion?
Wait.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Abstain.
Opposed?
And Helen and I will abstain,
And
even though we don't have to, we
So
choose
we'll
to.
be consistent.
Yes,
Boy, are you speaking
Because
for her
we're
saying? How do you know she wants to abstain?
because I heard her say abstain.
Oh, okay.
Do not hear this voice.
All right, moving on to approval of fishing tournament at Sampson's Pond, Rod's Jockey's Bass Club on 9/15/18.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, our next meeting is March 20th, another one on April 3rd, and then town meeting will be April 24th at 6:30 PM. And I don't see there's any need at all to go into executive session because there's
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second.
Sorry. Hearing none. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Boy, look at the time.